Welcome. Confident. All right, picture this for a second. Curious. You're at the local gym, right? Suspicious. And there's that one guy, completely drenched in sweat, grinding it out 6 days a week, probably posting selfies with the hashtag no days off. Serious, he treats working out like a grueling, mandatory second job. Relaxed, but then there's the other guy. Relaxed, the guy who trains maybe 3 days a week, does a handful of exercises, takes these really long relaxed rests, and honestly looks completely chill. Excited, yet somehow he is leaner, stronger, and making noticeably better progress every single month. Curious. So is he just genetically blessed, or is he on to something? Professional. Well, today in this explainer, we're breaking down what the source material actually calls the laziest way to build muscle, and why it might literally be the smartest thing you can do for your body. Energetic. Okay, let's really dive into this. Serious? We essentially have two totally different mindsets here. Professional, approach A is the grind. Serious, that's your 6 days a week. Absolutely no days off mentality. Relaxed, then you have approach B, the lazy way, 3 days a week, totally chill. Persuasive. Now society and social media are constantly screaming at us that approach A is the absolute only path to success. Curious. But what if I told you that doing everything the lazy guy does actually requires significantly more discipline? Confident. I know, it sounds completely backwards. But the science of muscle building strongly suggests that doing less but doing it correctly is exactly what you need to cut through the noise and actually grow. Professional. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. Professional. First, grind versus lazy training. Professional. Second, optimal frequency and volume. Professional. Third, the power of compound movements. Professional. Fourth, long rests and daily walks. Professional. Fifth, sleep as the ultimate anabolic. Professional. And finally, redefining workout discipline. Energetic. Let's get right to it. Professional. Section 1, optimal frequency and volume. Calm, it's all about finding that sweet spot. Confident. 3. Excited? Yep. Confident. 3 is the magic number here. Professional, and the research thoroughly backs this up. Professional, training a muscle 2 to 3 times a week is the absolute scientific sweet spot for muscle growth. Curious. Why? Professional. Well, because your body gets enough of a stimulus to trigger growth, but crucially, and this is the part people miss, it gets enough time to actually recover. Serious. You know, most people incorrectly assume that more is always better, but your muscle, it only really cares about the total weekly sets you do. Curious. Think about it. Professional. 12 sets is 12 sets, whether you're cramping them into 6 absolutely exhausted days or spread them out comfortably over 3. Confident. Showing up 3 times a week. Hitting everything and recovering properly means you basically never ever burn out. Professional. And this perfectly illustrates the reality of diminishing returns. Serious, if you're doing under 10 sets per muscle group a week, you're pretty much stuck in the low growth zone. But that sweet spot in the middle, 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week, that is your optimal growth zone. Professional, doing 4 to 8 hard sets per session, going close to failure on 5 to 15 reps is literally all you need. Serious. You see these guys doing 30+ sets for their back alone, pull-ups, chin-ups, just endless rows. Serious. But the harsh reality is that beyond 20 sets, you hit a massive wall of diminishing returns. Serious. You aren't growing any faster. Serious. You are literally just getting tired. Professional, moving on to section 2, the power of compound movements. Energetic, let's talk extreme efficiency. Excited. So this breaks down an extreme, almost unfair level of efficiency. Professional. Take a pull-up, for instance. Strong, it doesn't just hit your back. Strong, it absolutely hammers your lats, biceps, forearms, and your core all at the exact same time. Strong dips, they're blasting your chest, triceps, and shoulders. Strong squats are hitting your quads, glutes, hamstrings, and your core. Professional. Research actually shows that a minimalist program built on just 4 to 6 core movements builds just as much muscle as one packed with isolated single muscle exercises. Confident. You absolutely do not need to do 15 different variations in a single session just because you saw an influencer doing it online. Serious. That's often just, well, not so smart thinking disguised as hard work. Professional. Pick 1 or 2 compound movements for your level. Serious, real progression is about getting stronger at the basics, not just endlessly adding variety for the sake of it. Professional, Section 3, long rests and daily walks. Calm, it's time to slow the pace down. Persuasive, listen to this. Confident, if you are doing this right, you should be taking 3 to 5 minutes of rest between your working sets. Confident, that's right. Confident, up to 5 full minutes. Relaxed, you might be walking around looking totally chill, maybe even a little lazy, but this is incredibly smart. Professional, longer rests actually equal more muscle and more strength. Professional, and the reason is super simple. Professional, you're actually fully recovered before you start your next set. Professional, this means you can lift heavier and push harder, which drives faster progressing. Serious, meanwhile, the guy rushing his sets is just extremely fatigued, completely falsely calling his exhaustion intensity. Serious, and when it comes to cardio, we see the exact same misunderstanding. Serious, take high-intensity interval training or HIIT. Serious, people act like suffering is the ultimate goal here. Serious, sprint intervals, burpees, just drowning in sweat. Professional, but HIIT isn't magically better for fat loss than moderate cardio. Serious, in fact, it aggressively cranks up your stress hormones, makes you incredibly hungry afterward, and creates this heavy sense of mental dread before you even tie your shoes. Relaxed, then look at daily walking. Relaxed, it's a conversational pace. Confident, you can do it every single day with zero mental tax. Excited, and here's the absolute secret. Professional, consistent daily movement can swing your weekly calorie burn by thousands of calories without you even noticing. Professional, getting your steps in gets you massive results without burning you out. Relaxed, it looks lazy, but man, it works. Professional, Section 4, emotional sleep professional, the ultimate anabolic. Serious, this is where the real work happens. Serious, your muscles don't grow in the gym. Serious, they grow when you sleep. Professional, this isn't just a catchy phrase. Professional, it is a biological fact. Serious, so when you're lying awake at 2 a.m., doom scrolling, your body is essentially just sitting there waiting, basically asking, are we going to build muscle tonight or what? Serious, when you sleep like trash, your body immediately hits the panic button and enters damage control mode. Serious, it halts muscle building, your stress level spike, and your testosterone drops. Serious, so the guy training 6 days a week but sleeping terribly, he's getting half the results with twice the risk of total burnout. Strong, you need 7-8 hours. Strong, period. Strong, it is absolutely non-negotiable. Confident, getting 7-8 hours of high-quality sleep is the ultimate lazy way to build muscle. Confident, and I can guarantee you, it works far better than any pre-workout, post-workout shake, or insanely expensive supplement you will ever buy. Professional, if you are committing to the do less, get more approach, you simply cannot skip the recovery phase. Professional. Now, to actually help with this, the source material for today's explainer features a sponsor integration that addresses this exact issue. Professional, the Mantis Sleep Mask. Professional. The reasoning they present is that your eyelids aren't actually blackout curtains. Professional, light still gets through, which keeps your brain half alert, meaning you wake up feeling completely unrested. Professional, the Mantis Mask is highlighted as a specific tool to achieve a true 100% blackout state. Professional, the eye cups are designed to sit over your eyes, not directly on them, so there's zero goggle pressure, which secures that crucial deep recovery at 2 a.m. when your muscles are desperately trying to grow. Professional, the source creator also notes you can use the code YELLOW for 10% off. Professional, it emphasizes a really great point though. Serious, please don't spend hours optimizing a gym routine just to sleep poorly. Professional, finally, Section 5. Professional, redefining workout discipline. Professional, this is a complete philosophical shift. Professional, let's zoom out and look at the long-term outcomes here. Serious. Approach A is basically the illusion of hard work. Serious, you force yourself to train 6 days a week, you do cardio that completely destroys you, you eat in a way you hate, and you relentlessly add more volume because you mistakenly think more is always better. Serious, and the result? Serious, you completely burn out in 3 months. Professional, then look at approach B, relaxed. You train 3 days a week. You walk daily, you rigidly stop at 10-20 sets per muscle group, and you sustain this consistently for years. Serious, approach A definitely feels harder in the moment, which makes people think it's inherently better. Serious, but honestly, it's entirely ego-driven. Curious, which brings us to a final, really important question to leave you with today. Curious, which approach actually requires more discipline? Curious, to run yourself entirely into the ground because you just can't ignore the urge to do more. Curious, or to ignore your ego, look past the people grinding themselves to absolute dust, and possess the profound self-control to do only what works and absolutely nothing more. Professional, true discipline isn't about how much you can physically suffer. Professional, it's about having the restraint to stick to a sustainable plan for the long haul. Thoughtful, think about that the next time you're tempted to add just one more unnecessary set.